Good morning, everyone. This is the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner's stakeholder meeting to discuss the rule review for plain language contracts for regulated lenders. My name is Matt Nance, and I'm the OCCC's Deputy General Counsel. I'm joined by several members of the OCCC staff, including Commissioner Leslie Pettyjohn, Supervising Examiner Carl Hubenthal, Financial Examiner Che Baker, and Senior Paralegal Ginger Harmon, who's acting as our meeting organizer. We're holding this meeting through an online webinar, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. Getting input from stakeholders is a really important part of our rulemaking process, and these meetings help us make sure we produce the best rules possible. Our webinar platform is GoToWebinar. Some of you might be listening on your phones, some may be watching on computers, some might be doing both. For those of you watching on your computer, there's a questions window where you can submit comments to chat. Comments to staff. And if you have technical questions about using the webinar, you can type them in and Ginger will try to answer those. We're discussing a pre-comment draft of rule amendments that's available on the OCCC's webpage for recent and upcoming rules. On that webpage, you can see the draft rules by clicking the link for plain language rule review. If you have any comments on the rule amendments, go ahead and type those in at any time and I'll be getting to those. And if you're on a computer with a mic, there's a function allowing you to raise your hand and then we can let you make a comment verbally. We're talking about rule amendments that come out of a process called rule review. The Texas Government Code requires state agencies to review their rules every 4 years to make sure they should still exist and make any necessary updates. And when we do that, we try to get input from stakeholders on whether the rules should be updated. The rules governing plain language contracts for regulated lenders in Title VII, Chapter 90 of the Texas Administrative Code are currently up for review. So I'd like to first summarize these rules and then lay out the proposed timeline for the rules, and then you'll have a chance to provide comments. In this draft, we have 2 different sections with proposed rule changes coming out of rule review. In section 90.103, we'd update the provisions on the format of contracts. The main change is updating the list of typefaces considered easily readable. So we'd be adding Georgia and Verdana and removing Caslon, Century Schoolbook, Garamond, and Scala. And we'd also keep the 4 typefaces that are currently on the list: Arial, Calibri, Helvetica, and Times New Roman. The idea here is we want to account for electronic contracts and screen reading, which have really changed the way that contracts are disclosed to consumers. And we looked at accessibility guidance from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which studies, in particular, accessibility guidelines. And we found that these were the typefaces considered accessible for screen reading. So that's 90.103. In section 90.104, we'd generally be clarifying and reorganizing the submission requirements for non-standard contracts. The Finance Code allows regulated lenders to use model clauses and standard contracts that are in the rules, but if lenders want to use non-standard contracts, they need to submit those contracts to our staff for review. And we thought it would be helpful to reorganize this rule so it lists the primary requirements up front and groups related requirements together. One thing we specify in the rule is that contracts must be consistent with Texas and federal law. The rationale is that if contracts contain illegal provisions, this is misleading and isn't easily understood by an average consumer as required by the Finance Code. Really, lenders should already be doing this. They should be working with their legal counsel and compliance staff to make sure contracts comply with the law. And our current instructions already have submitters certify compliance with state and federal law. The amendments would also move the rule's submission form requirements into a single subsection D. Currently, those requirements are located in a few places throughout the rule. So that's the summary of the draft amendments. Here's a proposed timeline for the rule amendments. You can see we're requesting informal pre-comments by Thursday, September 29th. We intend to propose the amendments at the Finance Commission's October 28th meeting. There would be an official comment period during the months of November and December. We'd present the rules for adoption at the Finance Commission's December meeting, and the rules would be effective in early January 2023. This is, of course, a tentative timeline. All of this is subject to the Finance Commission's approval of the rules. So with that, I've summarized the rule action and I'll open things up to comments on the rule amendments. Again, there are two ways to provide your feedback through this webinar. First, you can type your comment out and send it to us through the webinar's question feature, or if you're on a computer with a mic, there should be a function allowing you to raise your hand. Also, if you have a longer written question, feel free to type a quick message into the question field and go to webinar explaining that you have a longer message. So Ginger, do we have any written questions or comments through the webinar?
Please stand by.
Okay. Okay, so we have a hand raised from Carl Gallant. Ginger, could you unmute Mr. Gallant?
Unmuted.
Okay, Carl. You can.
Hi, Matt. Thanks. This is Carl Gallant for the Texas Consumer Finance Association. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Good. I have a question about the addition of for non-standard contracts, the language about provisions that violate Texas or federal law. I'm just curious if there are examples of contract provisions that the OCCC is concerned about, or that have, are the impetus for this language.
Well, I think this is what lenders should already. I don't know that there's a particular individual type of provision. It's just that we believe that should be a basis for disapproving contracts if, for example, they have an illegal late charge provision or are missing some required disclosure that needs to be in the contract. We believe that that's a basis for disapproving the form, and we believe lenders should be doing the work, the compliance work of reviewing those contracts and certifying their compliance with the law. So I don't know if there's a particular type of provision that's the impetus for this.
Okay, I was just curious if this language is intended to change how the OCCC reviews non-standard contracts today, because I agree, I would expect this is already occurring. So I was just wondering if there was something causing the need for this language, and if this would change how non-standard contracts are reviewed today.
Yeah, I don't think this is can be connected to a change with how we review those contracts.
Thank you.
Do we have any other written questions through the webinar or hands raised? Okay. Not showing any other questions or hands raised. As a reminder, if you have a verbal comment, you can raise your hand through the webinar, or if you have a question, you can type it in. If you have a longer question, please feel free to type a shorter message, and we can give you some time to type out the longer question. So still not showing any. I do want to make sure we've given everyone a chance who has a question or comment. So I'll wait for 1 minute to see if we have any other questions, comments, or hand raises. Okay, I still don't see any other questions or hand raises, but it does look like we got several folks attending the webinar, so I do appreciate the attendance. So still just want to make sure there's no one. Okay, we have nothing. I would like to thank everyone for joining us and participating. Rule updates are available on our website at our webpage for recent and upcoming rules, the bottom link listed on the screen. We'll also be posting the audio of this meeting. Oh, Ginger's asking me to stand by. Oh, question. Will there be a PowerPoint sent to us? I missed the first part. So we will be posting the audio and video of this meeting. So you'll be able to see the PowerPoint by viewing the video of the meeting. But the PowerPoint's really just a summary of the draft, which is already available on the website. It's a pretty brief rule draft, just covering 2 sections. But if you'd like to view the PowerPoint, you'll be able to view it once we post the video of the presentation. So as I said, we will be posting the audio and video of this meeting, and you'll be able to view the presentation that way. That once we post that, a link will appear on our page for recent and upcoming rules, occc.texas.gov/publications/rules. We'll also be accepting written pre-comments on these rules until 5 p.m. on Thursday, September 29th. Please email those to me at rule.comments@occc.texas.gov. That's our email address for accepting rule pre-comments and comments. So again, I want to thank you all for attending. Please be safe out there, and we will see you next time. Thank you.